Immunity is a force that comes from the inside out. We normally think about it as, certainly it has to do with our blood cells and the white blood cells and this instinctive protective mechanism that we have that's supposed to keep invaders out and keep us healthy. But I'd like to suggest that we think about it as an energy that we exude from the inside out. And here I put a beautiful tiger on here. Actually, it turns out that the tiger is a symbol for the lungs, the lung meridian in classical Chinese medicine. And the lungs are an important part of the immune system, as we'll talk about in a minute. But I put this tiger, you know, look at this tiger. It's just got this energy of like, here I am, you know, it's this sense of place. It's a kind of a majestic looking animal. And it also has this vibe of, you know, don't mess with me, right? So it's definitely this sense of a boundary, and our immune system is the energy of a boundary. Now, tigers are strong. They're strong and they can be dangerous, but they don't just attack willy-nilly, right? They won't, unless they're in a pack or something, they won't take on a bigger animal that they think could hurt them or something. So, so there's caution as well as strength and sense of place and vitality. So, defense energy can get excessive, okay? And in the psyche, we know that when somebody's really defensive, it's like, don't mess with me, right? Don't mess with me. And it turns out that if the body starts to have a strong immune reaction to something, it actually can get out of control and go overboard. And that's, unfortunately, that's a little bit of what happens with this COVID virus, and I'll explain about that in a moment. Okay, so the immune system should be balanced and it should be strong, but sometimes it'll click into overdrive and get into excess, especially if it's not balanced and strong to begin with, right? It can also be weak. A lot of times you think, you know, people say, oh, I feel like I'm just susceptible, I'm vulnerable, right? So this cute little kitty under the blankets, it's like, if we feel tired, if we feel our immune system is weak, we're vulnerable, we want to crouch and hide, we want the warmth of the covers, we don't like the cold, we don't like the wind. So those are all signs that our defense system, and maybe also we don't have good boundaries, right, even in relationships. So that's a sense that our boundary system, our immune system might be weak. So in Chinese medicine, there's 3 different systems that are considered part and parcel of the immune system, and the first one is the lungs. So as I mentioned, the tiger represents this lung energy, kind of the archetype of the lung energy. And the lung is also associated with the skin and the pores. So a lot of times we take our skin for granted, but it's actually one of the biggest, if not the biggest, organ system in the body. And the pores of the skin open and close appropriately to let us sweat, so it's letting out toxins, or to close so that we keep the warmth inside, and it also keeps a sense of barrier. In the thinking of Chinese medicine, the immune system is like an energetic barrier that exists between the skin and the muscles. So under the skin layer and between the muscles, it's a defensive, it's an energy, it's a vitality that also helps the pores open and close. So of course we breathe in and out with the lungs, and also with our skin we breathe in and out. So especially in Qigong practice, we learn to get this feeling of breathing not only with the lungs but also with the skin. So I'm going to say just a little bit about the lungs from a Western perspective. From a Western perspective, there's 2 different kinds of cells that are in the lungs. One kind of cell is in the alveoli, and it's the kind of a cell that expands and contracts, and it helps to exchange the air. It extracts the oxygen, right, from the air. These alveoli are like little sacs. Let's first take a look at this image here. You've got the trachea, You inhale through your nose, right? The air goes down through the trachea. It comes into the lungs, either side of the lungs, and it branches into the bronchus and the bronchioles. And that's the little branches that you see. And when they say you've got bronchitis, it might be an inflammation of these bronchi and you're coughing. And then in the little ends and in the other cells are these alveoli, right, that are kind of through it, that open. It's like a sponge, right, with the little holes in it that opens and closes. So that's one kind of cell. The other kind of cell, it's called a type 2 cell, and it makes what's called a surfactant. And a surfactant you might think of as maybe a layer of mucus or something that lines those alveoli. And when it's all working well, it makes everything flexible so that you can open and close. But what happens with the COVID virus is that it comes into the body, right, through the nose or the eyes or the mouth. It gets in, and it attacks these type 2 surfactant cells, okay? And when it does that, the cell dies. And that dying of the cell triggers an immune response. And so you get this strong immune response, and if the immune system isn't balanced, it just gets this really big immune response. And that creates a lot of gunk. Chinese medicine would call phlegm or dampness, but it's different chemicals and dead cells and all kinds of things. And what happens is then that the alveoli, those cells that are supposed to open and flex, they fill with fluid and all this debris, and then you get this rigidity. And that when you can't expand and open like that and it's filled with fluid, that's pneumonia, and that's what also happens in this. Okay, so we want our immune system to be balanced, especially in the, especially right now, where we want to be protective. We're in the protective phase, the preventive phase. And here's some things that you can do. So this is a beautiful picture of a tree that I was facing when we did our Qigong practice in Hendricks Park a few weeks ago. And it just, to me, it looks like a lung. It was so beautiful. I was looking at it. And I put it here because one of the best things we can do is to be outside and breathe. We love nature and the energy, because the energy of nature balances us. And so we want to be out where there's good light and there's the scent and the fragrance and all of the energy of nature, because it relaxes and relieves us and balances us. And when we do, I have a little visualization I'm going to lead you through a bit when we do our shaking that helps us bring in that energy and light from life, and through the lungs, bring it down into the defense energy. So that's the idea, is that with the lungs is that you inhale and you bring in air and breath, and when you exhale, that energy is disseminated throughout the body. And so we will disseminate that color out to the skin, between the skin and the muscles. Okay, so a couple other things about the lungs. Every system in Chinese medicine has a body, mind, spirit correlate. And on the emotional realm, the lungs are connected with grief, and the whole idea of taking in and letting go, just like respiration. So in this time where we feel a lot of loss, financial loss, maybe loss of people or friends, there could be a lot of grief around. But even perhaps if you do not feel grief, some other things show up, that like over defensiveness or criticalness, other kinds of attitudes, maybe even melancholy, that kind of thing, where you don't really realize that you're sad, but in actuality you are, or you're anxious. Okay, so the lungs, it's called the tender organ because it's so susceptible to what's outside, but also they say it's the very first organ that starts the initial response for emotion, and a lot of times that's anxiety. So if you're feeling that, go outside. Do some breathing. See if you can find those feelings. Just accept them, breathe with them, and it helps to move it through. Also, because we're associating the lungs with the nose, the upper respiratory system, the sinuses, the nose, that's where essential oils can really come in strongly. And I sent you this slide ahead of time, so I'm not going to talk too much about it right now, but oils really affect us. They can help you relax. We've been putting them in a diffuser at night, oils that are relaxing, as well as I mentioned, we're going to see that we put a little oil blend together that we're going to put on the points in order to help stimulate them. The other thing I want to say before we go too far with the other systems is that one way that you can help prevent the bacteria from getting in is to do some saltwater lavage. So you can take a quarter to a half teaspoon of salt, put it in some warm water, blend it up. You can gargle with it, right? You can also put it in your eyes and in your nose. So what I do is I put a little bit in the cup of my hand, and I just, like a cup, put it in the eye, you know, and in the other eye, like that, you know, to kind of wash and flush your eyes out a little bit. You can do the same thing with your nose, you know, just hold one nostril and sniff it in. If you don't have a neti pot or something, sniff it in like that and blow it out, you know, wash the sink out. Anyway, and gargle, right? I've also heard, and I heard from my sister who was in a group where they do meditative awareness, they talked about gargling with oil, that like a coconut oil or something, that would be easier to get the bacteria, because when you gargle, no matter with salt or what, it brings the bacteria up into the mouth and then you spit it out. Okay, so these are safeguards, because those are the entryways for this virus. Okay, now digestive system. So in the digestive system, you wouldn't think it would be as important as it is in immunity, but it is. It's important in our energy, because our energy comes from breath, and it also comes from the food that we eat. And if we are not digesting very well, it can tend to create kind of a sludge, we could say, which Chinese medicine would call dampness. And according to Chinese medicine, that dampness can get deposited in the upper respiratory tract. So, you know, a lot of times I think you've heard, well, don't eat dairy or mucus-producing products when you've got a cold, because it'll just make more. That kind of comes from that. Dampness, we need dampness, we need moisture. There's a physiological aspect to dampness, and we need that physiological. We need to be hydrated. We need to have enough dampness. But when it's more like it's not moving well, or it's from poor digestion, then it can become phlegm. And that's when phlegm is like mucus, you're blowing your nose, your sinuses are clogged, you're coughing things up, you've got postnasal drip. Okay, all of that is phlegm. So those are signs of dampness in the body. And if you've got any of those signs, it means that you should look to your digestive system, what you're eating, because even if you're eating things you think are pretty good, something is causing that. My big sign is if I start eating something, and as soon as I eat, I have to blow my nose and I've got this clear drip, and then I know I've been eating some things that I'm either sensitive to, allergic to, or, you know, my body's just not digesting it well. So this COVID virus is called a sticky dampness, okay? It creates this system which makes the lungs rigid, where that phlegm lodges in there and it gets tight and rigid, and then you fill up with water. The alveoli fills with the water, and you can't breathe. So even though it's a dampness, there's a dry cough. So even though people are coughing, it's dry, they're not coughing up phlegm, it doesn't sound like that. Dampness is the problem, and so that's what needs to be addressed with herbs. Or if you get by that time and you can't breathe, you got to get to the hospital pretty quick. Yeah, but in the meantime, in the preventive time, there are herbs that you can take. There's herbal protocols, Chinese medicine, that they used in China and that were really helpful for preventing. And I think, I don't know, I think also the Mucinex, which has a component in it, it's a Western medicine, easily to get. It's supposed to help loosen up phlegm. That might also be good. Okay. So here is just a slide. I'm also not going to spend a lot of time on it, because once you get the link, you're going to have this whole thing. But these are ideas of what would be good to avoid and what would be good to eat at this time. But it all depends on your system. And at the very end is a link to an article from a friend of mine, a very, very good friend and colleague, who's really an expert on nutrition and Chinese medicine. And she wrote this one called Optimizing Our Diets in the Time of COVID. So it's a good article and very complete. Okay, so I love this picture. Breath and energy give us food. And so this is this feeling of the energy that comes from the inside out, the feeling of vitality, a feeling and an intention that our immune system is strong, and that we can do what it takes to avoid the virus. Enjoy the spring, right? Okay, feel gratitude. All these things help our nervous system relax and bring this sense of vitality and connection to life. We really want to keep this feeling that we're connected to life. So the other system that is important in Chinese medicine is what's called the kidneys meridian system. It involves the kidney and adrenals. Here's a picture here of where the kidneys are in your body, and then the long ureters where the fluid goes down into the bladder. But really in Chinese medicine, this whole lower belly is considered the area, the root of the body. When we exercise, we talk about, strengthening our core. It's our gut and abdominal muscles. And so it's the same idea here. It's like the kidney energy is our core energy. It's like the battery that charges our whole system and helps it function. And as we get older, it decreases. That energy decreases because we use it up all the time. And so what really replenishes the battery is rest and some conscious breathing and Qigong or other kinds of visualization that where we feel like we're bringing energy in and storing it in this battery, in what we call the lower dantian. So it's an important center in Qigong and martial arts for that reason. And it's important in breathing because Chinese, when you inhale, the belly extends, right? And that helps you inhale deeper. And like we said, the kidneys and adrenals are in charge down here. So Chinese medicine says that the energy of the kidneys pulls down that energy of the lungs. And so you're inhaling more deeply. And if people have problems with inhaling deeply, if they're wheezing, asthma, or anything like that, we'll not only look at the lungs, but also look at this core vitality. Okay, so really with all of us not doing as much and staying home, although we might be bored and, stir crazy and stuff, we actually are resting more. So in the long run, we're helping our immune systems. Okay, I put this picture here. I love this picture. My son took it. But what I want to point out here is these guys' feet and toes. I mean, it's a beautiful bird, but he's like gripping, like the long toes, kind of gripping and holding on to that driftwood. And especially in Qigong, we talk about putting roots down and really, feeling yourself grounded, that you're absorbing energy from the earth. So that's why I included that. Okay, let's start to talk about points here. So I want to talk about a point from a couple different angles. One is geometry, and the other is classical Taoist philosophy, which is the part and parcel of Qigong and Chinese medicine. So a point is a place that has neither length nor width nor depth. Okay, it doesn't have any dimensions. It's just a place of pure existence, a place of pure existence. And in classical Chinese medicine, they talk about it as a point of infinite potentiality. So you can imagine all the points there are in the universe were each points, and there's lots of points on the body. So points are a place of infinite potentiality pure existence without any dimension. And with 2 points together can be joined by a line, okay? And that's measuring the sense of length. But in actuality, that line extends into infinity in either direction, okay? And I'll tell you why that's applicable in a minute. So, in fact, let's do that. So when we talk about acupressure points, acupuncture points, and we're calling them acupoints, and meridians, it's the same kind of thing. A point is like a place or a portal that opens up into a whole realm. It can affect the physical realm, the emotional realm, and this inner realm of vitality and inner wisdom and sense of presence. And that depends on what points we do in combination, what our intention is. Big and really important. What our intention is, the point combinations that we do, and the attention we bring to it can take it to different levels. Each of the points have a name and a number. We'll talk about the ones and it talks about their location, their they are active in the local area, and they have a systemic effect. Now, meridians are the connections between the points. They're more like rivers or streams or flows of functionality, we could say, on an energetic level, a flow of functionality. So the stomach meridian would be the flow of functionality that has to do with the digestive system and digesting your food. Okay, so also, so the meridian is kind of defined by its points, the stream of its points, but also it connects us to the infinity above us and below us. Okay, so our energy system is part of this contiguous whole that we're a part of. And especially with Qigong practice, you're really trying to get yourself more sensitive to that. We usually are just not even aware of that. But the more we're aware of it, the more we can consciously do something about changing our energetic state. Okay, just real quick here, there's 12 primary functions. We've already talked about 3 of them, the lung meridian, the kidney meridian, the stomach meridian. And those are kind of primary flows, we could say, of functionality. Then there's what they call extraordinary meridians. And I'm mentioning it here, it's a whole nother realm, but 2 of the points that we're going to do are on one of these extraordinary meridians. We could think of them more as original flows, and especially there's one that flows up the center line of the body in the front and up the spine in the back. And we're going to do a couple of points on this one in the front, which is called the conception vessel. So you can think about these like if you study embryological, in embryological study, the energy of the spine, the central system comes first and everything evolves from that. So in the same way, these flows, these central flows sort of give energy out to the meridians and absorb energy in. So it's kind of a homeostatic process for homeostasis in the energy system. Okay, so now let's go through this. I'm going to go through it. I gave you this. We'll go through it real quickly, and then we'll go into the shaking and the demonstrating. So this is how you measure how you find points. Each of these units is called a Cun, C-U-N, in the Chinese medicine system, but it's really a flexible body inch or a unit of measurement. We can call it a unit. So 1 unit is the width of your thumb. 1.5 units is the width of 2 fingers. We're going to be using that measurement. Here they say that 2 units is the measure from your from the central crease to the tip of the fingers. But usually how we measure it is we say it's 3 finger widths. I was trying to check that out there, and you know, you can check it out. It's about the same, but I would say 3 finger widths. That's what I'm going to talk about. So 3 finger widths is 2 body inches, and 4 finger widths is 3 body inches. Okay. So the important thing to remember about the flexible body inch is that all of our bodies look different, and your 4 fingers are going to measure on your own body. But when you measure on someone else, you're going to have to adjust, put your hand up to theirs and adjust where you're going to have to put your measurement when you find a point on someone else. And I'll show you when we demonstrate. You can stimulate points in a number of ways. Okay, we're going to press the point. You can press and hold a point while the person breathes, a steady pressure. You can press and release, which is stimulating to a point, and you can move the point in circles. So we're going to do a little bit of all of that. I put down here 10 to 30 times, and I'll talk about that more when we demonstrate. But you want to do it until you feel a little bit of general relaxation. So after we stimulate the point with our fingers, then we're going to rub some essential oil into it, and we're going to use a hairdryer to warm it up. So I think I also sent this with your essential oil slide, but acupuncture points get stimulated in many different ways, either finger pressure or with the needles, or with an herb called moxa, which is burned either on the point or smoked above the point, with essential oils and with some kind of heating device. So we're looking to stimulate that point in different ways, and we're going to use essential oils and hairdryer and our fingers. Okay, so here's our first point, leg 3 miles. I'm going to come back. I'll come back to this. In fact, maybe what we ought to do, let me just see. So we're going to do leg 3 miles, the point in the leg. Maybe I ought to just go ahead and and start. I think I'm going to stop the share right now. Let's do a little qigong, a little bit of shaking, and then we're going to come back to this and we'll do the demonstration. Well, actually, you know, we're going to demonstrate and we're not going to. So hopefully you have this in front of you. Let me just run through it. So there's going to be leg 3 miles, which is just below the knee, and it's going to be 4-finger wrists or 3 units below. So I want to say now before I forget that don't do this point when on a woman who's pregnant. This point will actually help start labor. So if you want to help start labor, do the point. But for pregnant women, we're going to use the arm point. This is the arm immune point. We'll get into, I'm going to show you where that is, okay? Then we're going to do a point below the navel here on the conception vessel. This is one of those extraordinary meridians. Conception vessel 6, it's called Sea of Qi. And we're going to alternate that with conception vessel 12, which is called middle cavity. It's a center for digestion. And this point I added, they talked about, one of my Chinese medicine mentors who was reporting from doctors in China said that their acupuncture really worked, just the basic points. And they would do a point like this one, inner gate, PC6, and people would say, oh my God, my chest is opening. And it's also a very good point for general relaxation and anxiety, so I included it. Okay, and this is a sequence we're going to do. Okay, so let me stop it here, and I'm going to stop the screen share. Okay. Okay, so now you should see me again, right? And so now let's start. We're going to start with some Qigong shaking. Qigong shaking is very popular because people are catching on that it's a whole kind of energetic medicine in itself. So even in yoga classes, they're doing some shaking. But the one thing I want to say about shaking, the important thing to know about it is that it helps release the nervous system. So it releases physical stress, it releases emotional stress, it releases traumatic stress. It helps the body readjust. So, and especially with fear. So, you know, the saying, I'm shaking like a leaf, right? Shaking like a leaf. It implies that somebody's scared and they're shaking, right? Shaking it out. So, so shaking is a very important natural phenomenon. But a lot of times when our body shakes, we all of a sudden think, oh my God, something's wrong. But in fact, animals, you know, animals have this reflex where if they feel threatened by a predator, they fall down and they play dead, right? But when before they get up, after the predator leaves, they go into this huge shake and then they breathe a couple times with belly breaths and they get up and run away. So it's a very natural way to move the body, but it's a little different. A lot of times we're not so flexible, we're not used to it. So I want to suggest when we're shaking, if you feel at all like you're self-conscious shaking, just go down to the bottom left-hand side and turn off your video. And then nobody sees you and you just shake in the privacy of your own home, okay? Okay, so we're going to do a few minutes here. Okay, so let yourself stand with your feet comfortably apart. We're going to start a practice, and whenever we start a practice, it's really good to tune into our intuition and to feel ourselves settled on the earth, below the sky. So let yourself just start to follow your breath. We want to get out of our heads, into our bodies. We want to remember why we're here. I'm assuming everybody's here because you want to know how to protect yourself from this virus. But I think that in addition to protecting ourselves, we also have the intention of protecting other people, our loved ones, our healthcare workers, people we don't even know. So just feeling that sense of your intention for being here, and then feel your feet on the ground. Maybe move your toes a little bit, your legs and your toes. Press against the ground a little bit. And just feel like you're connected, as if like that heron, you can spread your toes and you can feel like you can root and hold on to the ground. That you actually feel the ground through your feet. I'm going to give you these images. You may feel them or not, but the words are pointers. They're symbolic pointers about things you can pay attention to. Okay, and above us, we've got the sun shining, right? There's the sun, moon, and stars. So we want to feel also that that light of the sun comes down and surrounds us like a protective shield. Now I'm going to suggest that we start out with something called wiggling. Okay, this is a form of shaking where you just let your body move with some kind of visualization. So let's start out by visualizing that we're under a waterfall. Okay, just let yourself feel that you're under a waterfall and you just start moving. We want the body to start feeling fluid. If we're tight and we're stiff, it's more like we're ice. But we want to try and get the sense that we're softening, like soften the edges, softening the body. So just feel like you're wiggling a little bit under a waterfall. It's washing off the tension, muscle tension. Yep. Or you can imagine, I'm going to give you a couple of images, you see what you like. You can imagine that you're a piece of seaweed in the ocean and that the movement of the waves of the ocean also moves you. It's another way to start to feel more fluid. Let your arms move. You know, let your feet move. You can pick your feet up a little bit from the ground. Or alternately, you can feel like you're a tree that's just moving in the wind. You feel the wind ruffling through your leaves and your branches. Just kind of flexible, strong and flexible. This is called wind and water qigong. Wind and water qigong. It's just a way to be a little bit easy and free with loosening up. And sometimes this is all you need to do. If you have a little more time, then you can actually do a little bit more shaking. And shaking, let's start with a little bit of shaking. When you shake, you can either jump up and down a little bit like this, just shaking, shake out your hands, your fingers, your legs. I'll take you through it a little bit. So you can shake kind of up and down, or you can shake like, think about a dog that's shaking out some water. You know, it goes, it shakes like this. Right? So that shaking can also be kind of a shaking like that. So just shake a little bit, and this helps us connect with the body. So let's loosen up our joints. Shake your arms out. Shake out your shoulders, your elbows, your hands, like you're flicking some tension out through your fingers. And then the other side. Loosening the joints, the elbows, the wrists, the fingers. Okay, then let's do hips. Hips, knees, and legs, right? Shake it out. Move your hips. Both sides. Hips, knees, ankles, and feet. And then just shake out your limbs. So sometimes this just feels great. You just shake out a little bit. Blah. That's all you need. Sometimes use a little voice like, oh, it feels so good. It's like, a relief, right? Okay, now a lot of times with shaking, we just do a little tapping. So we're going to start with tapping our skin. So just give yourself a light tap. Start with your face, top of the body, face, around the head, and just tap really lightly like you're waking your skin up. Okay, so remember we talked about the skin and the lungs and the immune system. So feel like you're waking it up, and maybe you give it a little message, that defensive energy. Yes, skin, immune system, I see you, right? Strengthening you. All the way down through your legs, all the way down to the feet and the toes. Like you're stimulating your skin. And then just shake a little bit. Just feel like you're shaking your skin out. And you're feeling how the air touches your skin, or your clothes touch your skin. Just feeling a stimulation on your skin. And remember we said that the skin's connected to the lungs. And so I want to show you that we can use a cupping type of a tap to tap along the lungs. This is an important thing, right? Because if you ever feel congested, you can use this kind of tapping to really loosen things up in the lungs. Okay, so the lungs go from your shoulders down to your diaphragm, goes in the front, the sides, and the back. So just get this nice tapping motion all along your lungs. And if you can, in the back as much as you can, between your shoulder blades. If you know someone, your partner, somebody who starts to feel like they're coughing, then you just can take this and just give a little tap, right? That, hopefully you can hear that that feels like it's got this deep tap. So now let's shake out our lungs. And this is the time where you can imagine that you breathe in some white, some crystalline white, beautiful white, like the sun shining off a crystal of water, a radiant white. Breathe it in. And when you exhale it, let it disperse all the way through your whole body, all the way out between the skin and the muscles. Just making a protective shield, a protective energy all around you. Okay. All right, so let's now tap a little deeper. Let's just loosen up our muscles. Okay, so tap again, the same pattern, but see if you can feel your muscles. Your jaw, is it tight, right, around your eyes. There's thin muscles on your face and your head, but they get denser like your neck. Okay, so just, you're kind of tapping it out, checking out where you're tight, but you're also just encouraging that tension to let go a little bit. There's this saying in Qigong, it's an ice to water. Ice to water and then water to gas. It's like the more, first you feel fluid and then you feel more space. So get all your muscles, arms, shoulders, get all around your shoulders, your neck, your chest, your back, upper, middle, lower, your hips, your legs, lower legs, feet, belly. And then the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to sweep our diaphragm. Our diaphragm is the big muscle that runs underneath the ribs, okay? And by sweeping it, it encourages us to breathe deeper, so it's also helping the lungs, right? Ready? So inhale, and with your fingertips, feel underneath your lungs and just sweep in the front and also in the back, just like this. Under the ribs, hold your breath. Get your fingers, don't be afraid to get your fingers under your ribs, and then exhale, okay? Let's do it again. Usually we do it 3 times. Just feel like you're swiping out. You feel like you're swiping out tension because as soon as we get stressed, we tighten this diaphragm and stress collects right here. Okay, one last time. Okay, so just shake a little bit. See if you feel like it's easier to take a breath. See if you feel more of your torso connected. And then stop, okay? We're gonna stop. Shaking is a practice you can do for 5 minutes. You can do it for a half an hour, for an hour. The more you shake, we do. In Qigong practice, we do a lot of different kinds of shaking. But right now, let's just relax. So as you relax, feel inside. Notice that there's probably tingling, warmth, maybe your breath's a little bit easier. You're feeling things move. So you're soft on the outside and still, but moving on the inside. That movement, that's how we tell that there's qi. Qi, the word qi means movement. It's moving, the movement force of the universe. When something moves, the qi is moving. And in addition, just notice that you're noticing, right? The part of you that's noticing, the part of you that's alive, the part of you that's here in the moment. So we can say that we're feeling our inner body. And feeling the inner body, paying attention to it, is one of those antidotes to being too much in your head, to getting out of anxiety. Shaking and tapping and feeling the inner body, do it as long as you need to. so you feel relaxed. Okay, now let's just end this by bringing our feet together and just kind of calm down that center line of your body. Whenever we do a Qigong practice, we always want to store the energy that we've accumulated down in the lower battery. So bring your hands all the way down. Usually we say for women to put the right hand next to the body and left hand on top, and men the opposite. And let's just breathe there a little bit. And again, hug the ground with your feet. Give yourself those nice long hair and toes. Feel like you're rooted in the ground, that you're opening. You feel the stars and the sun above, and you're starting to pay attention to feeling more relaxed, feeling more spacious. We're starting to pay attention to what's really good in the world. So let's also pay attention to what we're grateful for right now. Feeling the love we have in our lives and how we're giving to others. Okay. Just being here together and strengthening ourselves is going to help others because we can share it with other people. And when you change your energy, you can't help changing the energy around you because we're all connected. Okay, so now we're going to demonstrate those points. Okay, David. So if you want to practice demonstrating on someone, you can do the other one first, right? To the left leg. We're going to do left leg, yeah. Okay. That's the one that's closest to them, not closest to me. Okay. Okay, here we go. So because we've got this camera the way it is and we want to demonstrate the points, we're doing it like this. But what I want to say is that when we do this at night, it can be a very nice way to exchange some touch. Of course, you can always do this on yourself. Easy to do it on yourself. But if you're going to do it with a partner or someone else, you know, we usually sit catty corner. Maybe legs are out on the couch or out on an ottoman, and then you put a pillow behind the knee so that it kind of bends it a little bit because it's easier to find the point and work with it when the knee is bent. Okay, so now we're going to go to our first point, which was leg 3 miles. If you printed it out in front of you, you can look at it, but otherwise just pay attention here. You've got it, you've got this information, and you're going to have this video too, so don't worry about it. So this point is 3 body inches or 3 units below the kneecap. So again, I'm gonna find it on David. So you put his fingers together, and I'm putting mine on his. Okay, so I need to have my fingers a little spread out to get his body inch. I'm going to go underneath the kneecap. If you slide your finger along the kneecap, you're going to find there's a little ridge right underneath it, and that's where you put your first finger. You put your index finger, and the point is going to be your fingers mark the distance. So the point is really going to be just right about in the area at the end of your fingers, okay? And it's in the muscle next to the bone. Okay, so this bone right here, it's your shin bone, okay? Called the tibia. And this muscle next to it is called the tibialis anterior. If you get shin splints, feel it here. So if David picks his leg up and down, right, I feel that muscle popping out right there. Okay. Now, another way you can check yourself is if you gently slide your finger down the kneecap, you're going to find that there's this little like ridge or hump in the bone, almost like you're going over a mountain, and at the bottom of it, you should be very much even with where you are. And now you're going outside, so you're on the little toe side of the bone, okay? So you got the shin bone, you're on the little toe side of it. Leg 3 miles, by the way, is on the stomach meridian. It really affects digestion, but it's called leg 3 miles because it implies endurance. It's like you can go another 3 miles. This is going to give you endurance, okay? So now, I'm going to press the point. With acupressure, sometimes the angle of the point makes a difference. So And the person, you can tell you're on a point. For one thing, if you feel it gently, there's often just like a little bit of a depression in the muscle, or maybe you feel it's a little more warmish there, but you might not feel that. Maybe what you feel instead is it's a feeling of sensitivity. And you can usually really key a point in with that. So either you'll feel it on yourself, or you can ask the person you're working on to help you with that. So do you feel like
a little more pressure?
You want a little more pressure? Yeah. Got it. Now if I angle it towards the bone, is that any better?
No.
No, okay. So sometimes the angle that you are pressing something at makes a difference. And sometimes you're kind of angling it towards the bone, but he feels it right here. So I'm going to start out with about 10 circles. I'm going to circle in a clockwise direction, which is stimulating for a point. I'm going to do about 10. I said 10, it might be 12, it might be 8, you know. It's got to fit with your energy. And then I'm just going to hold steady pressure. I'm going to ask David, yeah, take a breath. And even feel when you exhale, like that energy comes right down your leg to your toes. So the more you relax your system, the more it's going to open the point. Okay, and I'm going to do another 10 circles. Okay, and just kind of hold a steady pressure and have a breathe. After you get used to this, you start to feel with your fingers like the muscle softens. And he'll start to feel like that sensitivity, like you're not pressing that hard. So are you still pressing as hard as you were? Because the sensitivity goes away. Okay, I'm going to do it again. You feel it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You could go harder.
I could go harder? Okay. So if the person wants you to go harder and your thumbs won't, one thumb won't do it, you could use another thumb to support. Or if your hands are not that strong, you could use something else, like a little tool. This I have is a little crystal. It's kind of a massage tool, but the main thing about it, it's got a soft end, and I can just put it right in that spot. Does that feel okay?
Yeah, harder.
Harder?
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so he wants a lot of pressure. Sometimes you don't. Okay, just go. You gotta ask the person. Now, any rounded thing will do. I was trying to look for what might you have around the house that you could use. One thing would be, right, the end of a spatula, right? Or, I mean, we even looked at a marker. You know, as long as it doesn't hurt the person, that's all right. Yeah. Okay. So you can use any. That's if your hand pressure isn't working. Okay. Or you want some help with that. Okay. So now, after you do the acupressure, then we're going to put on the oil. Okay, I've got my little bit of oil. I put it in a small container because I felt like, well, if I want to change the formula for another time, maybe I will. Another nice thing about using oil is that you get the smell, and the smell really helps you. It helps with the relaxing. So it's not only for the point. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little bit on my finger, and I'm going to rub it in like this to the point. And I'm just using a light rub. I'm rubbing it in like that. When you rub something like an herb or a compress or something on, you usually do it light, and you can do a few layers, right? Another few drops. So don't worry if you don't have the essential oils for this. As I said in that handout that I gave you, it's okay even if you don't. It's just kind of an added benefit. I'm sure he wants to smell. Yeah, nice. Okay, what did I do with the bottom of that? Okay, it's okay. All right, ready? So I put on the oil. Now the hair dryer. Okay, so I'm going to put on low, and I'm going to start out maybe 4 fingers distance like this, and then ask him how it feels. You want it a little closer? Good? Okay. So I'm going to hold this here for about a minute or two. Or if you're doing it on yourself, of course, you only do it until it feels good. If it starts to feel too hot or you're done with it, that's it. And also you tell the person to tell you if they feel that too. So if before a minute or two, the person feels like that's enough, then you just stop. You're really looking for that generalized sensation of relaxation to get started. You feeling any of that yet? Okay. He's already feeling it. And the more you get used to, the points, probably the quicker you feel it. Okay? So 1 or 2 minutes like that. That's the technique. So you find the point, you stimulate it with your hands. If you put the oil on first, it's a little hard, then it's too slippery, right? So stimulate the point first and breathe with it, then rub the oil onto it, and then use the heating device, use your hair dryer, okay? So these points are bilateral, so it would be on the other leg, even though right now, I'll just show you where it is, but I'm not gonna do it the same way because I wanna get through everything here. So I would again find his finger widths and use that, find the end of the kneecap, put my finger widths on, and I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna check it with this little bump right here. There's a bump and then you go into a valley. Yep, I'm right there, right where my finger is. And I just go into the muscle. Maybe about a thumb's width, a little bit into the muscle here, and press a little deeper. If the person has stronger or tighter muscles, it takes a little more pressure to get through those outer layers. So depending on who you're working on, they might feel it right off the bat, or it may take a while. Okay.
We also did these points just a few hours ago, and both of them are sort of talking to me less than they did a couple hours ago. So
okay. Yeah, we went through a little rehearsal. Yeah.
Yeah, and that might happen if you do it twice a day.
Right. That's right. Okay. So the protocol in China that they used was to do leg 3 miles on each leg, and then to alternate it with a point on the belly. And we'll show you where those points are, okay? So the lower point was conception vessel, so they're on the central line of the body, okay? So you stand up, put one hand in your navel, one finger in your navel, and then with your other hand, just start pressing along the center line down your belly until you get to a bone, which is your pubic bone, okay? And then just be right on the top of your pubic bone and mark that distance, okay? So we're marking this distance. Now, no matter what the body looks like, there's 5 body inches from your pubic bone to your navel, okay? There's 5 body inches. So if you go in the center of that space, yeah, look and find the center and put your finger there, okay? Now we've got 2.5 units between the navel and this center point, okay? And if you go again between that center point, you go to the middle of that space, right? Which is going to be right about here for David. Now we're at 1 1/4, okay?
Below the navel.
Below the navel. So now our point is 1.5, 2 fingers. So we go down just a little bit, and I can check and see if I put my 2 navels and my 2 fingers below his navel and spread them out a little because his fingers are a little wider than mine, then I'm about there. So let me press in a little. You feel it? Okay. So he feels it right away. Okay. So now on this point, so this is part of this lower battery. It's called the Sea of Qi. The Sea of Qi means it's part of this whole field, this lower field of energy that affects the belly, the legs, and the feet. Now, you can press in and you can circle, but usually I go a little bit slower. I just have David breathe with it. Does that feel okay?
That's good.
Yeah. So you just get feedback from your partner, what feels good. Obviously, if you're doing it on yourself, you already know. Okay, so then again, about a few circles and then breathe. Just hold it steady and let him breathe into it. And you can feel when he's breathing into it, you can feel with your hands and just see, is there any softening there? Or do you start to feel a little bit more relaxed because you're so close to the other person, their energy is affecting you and you feel it yourself. And you can do it again. Okay. All right. So we would do that again 10 to 30 times or more. or less, you know, just go with what feels right, but you can certainly do that. And then we would put the oil on it and the hair dryer, the same. Now, sometimes this feels great at first with the heat, I think for most people, but it could easily feel a little too warm quicker than the other points. So just be careful about that, right? Now the other point, so in China, they would alternate. They would do the 2 leg points, right? Leg 3 miles with this point maybe in the morning, and then they would do leg 3 miles with the upper point, the next point we're going to do in the afternoon. So they would alternate it, and they did it twice a day. Okay, so now put your finger in your navel again, the lower hand maybe in the navel, and this time you want to feel where the edge of your sternum is. There's a little point of the bone there, and if you just travel up a little bit, maybe a thumb's width, you'll find that there's a little groove there where it attaches to the sternum. So that's where so that marks the points. Now again, you want to go about halfway. This point is about halfway, okay, between. And we don't have to do anything else, it's about halfway. And again, you're in the area, so you just want to feel around a little bit, let the person, okay. Okay, there it is. So I first started to do it, of course I'm used to finding points, right? And I just felt in my hands, you know, I need to be a little bit lower. And when I went a little lower, I dipped into the muscle and I felt just a little bit of warmth. And so I knew I was there. Okay, but that takes some practice. So, but the best thing is ask your partner or just feel it. And again, same thing. So this point is primed for digestion. Here we are with the digestive system again. So charging the battery and helping the digestive system. That's what they did to help the immune system. Okay, so again, you would do your circles and hold it steady and breathing. Then you're going to put some lotion, you know, some oil on it, and you can use the hair dryer if it feels good. Okay, now I'm going to show you the arm point. So I said that you shouldn't use the leg point when you're pregnant, you can use the arm point. So in China, the straight thing that they did was they did the leg 3 miles with the lower point, alternating the leg 3 miles with the upper point. That's what they did. But from studying with Japanese acupressure, I also know that there's an immune area here that they talk about that you can stimulate also, and if someone's pregnant you would do this one, and in addition to those other points you can do this too. I do them all. Okay, so this point is just right, again, it's below the elbow this time. We were below the knee, and it's right in the center. So like, yeah, oh, see, already found it. Already found it. It's like the reason why this is so sensitive also is because we use our mouth and our arms a lot. Right, see, we're using that muscle a lot. So you get double duty. You get to relax the muscle a little bit and you stimulate the immune system. So again, we can press into it. Is that good? Breathe with it a little bit. So this time I'm just going to have him relax his shoulder and his elbow and his arms and his fingers. You can even imagine that tension drains out all the way out your fingers. And that sends a message to your brain and your nervous system, and it starts to trace that route for you, okay, and helps you relax. So again, I'm going to stimulate with some circles. Kind of pop, this muscle's tight, and I'm kind of popping off of it a little bit. Okay. Breathe. Okay. So that's this immune point. It's right in this area. Just kind of catty corner from the elbow, just right into this nice sore muscular kind of area. Okay, and work with it. Okay, and then the other point that I added is called inner gate. Okay, inner gate is a point, as I mentioned before, that helps open the chest and relax anxiety and kind of calm the heart. So it is, and you can add it to it or not, depending on if you want. You can do it by itself, even if you don't do the other ones. You can add it to this release. It's really nice. Help relax you before bed. Okay, so 3 is 2 units. Okay, so I'm going to go 3 fingers. So I need to get my fingers again in line here. Okay, so about like that for David. And I'm going to put my finger, my lower finger, right on his wrist crease. Okay, and this point is where, just right at the very top of your third finger there. Okay, just then you're in the area. Okay, you can relax your hand. And I'm going to be a little careful with this point. It's actually between 2 tendons, and you might feel yourself in a little valley between 2 tendons. It's also a little bit of a nervy area, so sometimes it's nice just to hold pressure and breathe with it. You want me to come up a little bit? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so see, you can really zone it in. And you can do some circles. You can press and release, or you can just hold. And again, you're going to hold it until the person feels like they're relaxing a little bit. Okay, so you see where it's at? Okay. And again, you do the same thing. You can do it with your fingers, you can put oil on it, you could use a hairdryer with it. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll do the other immune points, and I'll come up and maybe I'll do the one on one arm, I'll do the arm immune point, and on the other arm, I'll do inner gate. All these points are bilateral, except of course the center is on the center.